Bit of lag, right?
Yeah. That good.
Right.
Yep.
Good morning and welcome to another live on the Blind Advocate YouTube channel. A couple of things I want to talk about this morning. Firstly, about a year and a half ago, I covered the information about Salesforce, the software that the NDIA uses. Now, when this came in 2020, it was costing about $27 million for that software package. Now we're up around $235 million. And they've just signed a contract for another $65 million for 6 months. The NDIA signed a contract with Salesforce. Now, the issue I have is the cost blowout from 27 million to now over 300 million. And the government's talking about saving money. There are other cheaper alternatives to Salesforce. But why did the government choose Salesforce? Well, apparently Salesforce gave senior members of the NDIA hospitality gifts. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, apparently over 100 times. So they bribed their way into that contract. They did this to get the senior people of the NDIA and the government ministers and all the senior public servants, all these kickbacks, to get this lucrative contract that was worth 27 million. Now it's worth over $300 million. Now the government wants to save money. They're slashing everybody's funding because there's so much fraud going on. They're going to slash everyone's funding. Well, how about slashing Salesforce? Now, a report came out. I read it this morning. I belong to an email list. It's run by a bloke called Adam Morris. Really good email service. Really good information comes through. Now, these people who did the investigation put in a Freedom of Information request over 3 months before they got this information. 3 months. They said in that report that they were being stonewalled and they weren't getting the information, so they went to the Information Commission. They got a document worth 6 pages. It took 104 days to get 6 pages of one document only. So that worked out to be 17 days per page, which was heavily redacted. Now, this seems to be an ongoing issue or problem with the NDIA, deliberately going slow, and I've experienced this myself. Now, in February, I found out, earlier this year, I found out that Serco is a call centre which the NDIA contracts out to. And so far, their contract's over $500 million. From what I've been able to research online. Now, these Serco, it's based in the UK, but they have offices in the UK, the US, and through Asia and Australia. Now, the average turnover, staff turnover for Serco is 6 weeks. So every 6 weeks, there's a new staff member coming on, accessing your personal private information. Every time you ring up the NDIA, you are not talking to the NDIA, you are talking to Serco. Not the NDIA staff, you are talking to Serco. I don't want people complete strangers accessing my information. Now, the government said that they audit these people, they audit Serco and they audit people's computers regularly. But how often's regularly? Once a month? Once every 3 months? Once every 6 months? Once a year? once every 2 years. But the average turnover is 6 weeks. Are they actually auditing these computers? Now, they're most likely working from home, which I have a problem with because I don't know what they're doing to their computers when they're not at work. They could be downloading porn, downloading malware, spyware. I have no idea. I have no idea if they're doing screenshots and sending that off to other people. I have no idea. So I contacted the Privacy Commissioner, the Privacy Officer at the NDIA in February this year, withdrawing my consent for Serco and any other third-party organisation to access my information, to be able to access it, to go through it, to read it. I have a problem with that. So I withdrew my consent to the Privacy Officer. I got an email last Friday saying, "Oh, yeah, we can do this, so too bad. If you don't believe me, here's a link to our website and here's a link to the Information Commission." But according to the Privacy Act of 1982 or 88, whatever it is, I have the right to refuse anyone access to my information. Now, I'm not withdrawing my consent to the NDIA and the NDIA staff as to third-party contractors for the reasons I just mentioned. I don't know what they've got in their computer. I don't know if they're being audited. I don't know if they're doing screenshots and selling the information or passing that information on or passing it to friends and families and have a laugh at what we purchased with our funding. No idea. So the privacy officer said that, sorry, we can do this. It says in the legislation, and I'm not putting up with it. If I had known, when I first went on the NDIS, Serco wasn't on the scene. That was all the NDIA. Now, the government wants to make it a bit cheaper for them by hiring Serco and other third-party contractors. Not with my permission, you're not. Absolutely not. I have the right to say no. Obviously, I can't say no to the NDIA because, it's the NDIA and they're their own organisation, they have their own rules and regulations that they only want to seem to adhere to when it suits them. So here we have Salesforce, over 300 million, Serco, over $500 million in contracts, $800 million. Now, let's not forget the LACs. They work for Uniting, which I think is from the Uniting Church. Again, I don't want them accessing my information. I don't know what the Uniting contract's worth. I'll be looking into it. But I have the absolute right under Australian law to my privacy and confidentiality, and I'm going to be using it. And I don't care what the privacy officer says. It's going to stop. I don't know what everyone else wants to do with their privacy and confidentiality. It's entirely up to you, but I'm not allowing someone who's going to go into Serco on an average of 6 weeks before they leave the job accessing my personal private information. Now, before I went on the NDIS, I was using state-run disability services, like 2 or 3 different service organisations. And then I'll get a phone call from 2 of them saying that we're closing our doors as from the 1st of July next year, so you need to go on the NDIS. I said, well, the NDIS is not in this area yet where I live. That doesn't matter. We're closing our doors on the 1st of July next year. So I contacted the NDIA, organised a meeting to join it. They sent a person up to write everything out. I had two LACs whom I'd never met before. The person from the NDIA never met before, and an OT that I had that I'd used in the past. And I had to go through absolutely everything on my personal private details. I was so humiliated and degraded. I was just so angry at the time. So I asked the person from the NDIA, what qualifications do you have to have this job? Oh, that's personal information. I'll have to give that. Oh, Lieutenant, I said, you've got to be kidding. You've got all my personal private information in front of a room full of people, and you won't tell me your qualifications. No, don't have to. I'm not going to. It's private information. So rules for thee, not for me. Just typical. Now, the NDIA, I've made quite a few inquiries and complaints over the last couple of years, and they're deliberately dragging it out, deliberately, hoping I'll just shut up and go away. But I'm not going to. I have the right to protect my personal information, and I have a right to ask questions. Now, I may not pay income tax, but I pay GST, I pay sales tax every time I buy something. So the government is using my money, and I'm going to hold them accountable. And if they can't be transparent, then he needs to go. Start with the Prime Minister, Mr. Mellons. He can't see he did anything wrong with humiliating the Japanese Prime Minister, talking about her melons. You've got to be kidding. Anthony Albanese is a true socialist. He imposes his ideology onto everyone in the community, whether they want it or not. And the last person that did it will go and Sieg Heil to and give him the Hitler salute. And he's an idiot, in my opinion. Mr. Mellons, the Prime Minister. I'll put it to you this way. I believe that Adolf Hitler and Donald Trump had a baby, they'd call it Anthony Albanese. Now, I often listen to the Labor Party talking, the ALP, as I like to call them, Australian Liars Party, in my opinion. They are so staunch in their support of Mr. Mellons. I said to my wife the other day, how can they breathe? How come they have not asphyxiated with their heads shoved so far up Mr. Mellon's butt? I just don't know. I'll be glad when this Liars Party goes. I really will. It's a disgusting organisation. True socialists and extremists. But for those people out there who are listening, if you don't want people accessing your private information from Serco, then contact the privacy officer at the NDIS. Email. Don't call because you'll talk to Serco. Email the privacy officer, which is probably Serco anyway, knowing the NDIA. Because we all know they don't read plans. They don't read doctors' reports or OT reports. They just run everything through AI. But think about it. Salesforce and Serco, nearly $1 billion. And there are cheaper alternatives out there to Serco. and to Salesforce. They should have lost that contract for bribing the senior management or senior members of the NDIA. That investigation's been going on for over 3 years into that bribery stuff, and the government's not releasing the information. Why are we putting up with it? We don't have to put up with it. Anyway, I come across this video a week or two ago. Now, we all know the Australian Liars Party is trying to slash funding because there's so much fraud going on. And as I reported last time, you know, the NDIA won't prosecute all these fraudsters because A, this is their words, not mine. They won't get their money back. And B, it would overwhelm the Australian judicial system. So let's reward the criminals and blame the victims, the people with disabilities. Slash their funding so they don't get ripped off. We won't give them any money. We won't give them any funding. Reward the criminals, blame the victims. That's what the Australian Liars Party does. And we all know what Albanese earns per year, $522,000. But when you add all the allowances that all the other MPs get, it takes him up to 1.5 million. I checked it out myself. He's never had a full-time job. He's always sucked off the teat of the taxpayer. That's all he's done his whole adult life. He's sucked off the teat of the taxpayer. 2007 to now, with the Labor Liars Party and the coalition, we went from $52 billion in debt to over $1 trillion in debt in 20 years. That's not okay. That's not okay for me, my kids, my grandkids, their kids. Anyway, I'm going to talk about this video that I sent a couple of weeks ago. Like I was just saying that Albanese wants to slash funding. Now, I agree that the NDIA funding needs to get under control, but we need to do this by tackling fraud to start with, banning people from life from working for the NDIA if they do the wrong thing, and getting people off the NDIA who shouldn't be on there. There are people on the NDIA who don't deserve to be. But this family we're going to show here in a sec, my heart bleeds. I've never been in that situation. But my heart bleeds for that family. Can we just play that, please, Terry?
Sure.
But first, Renee and Dave enjoy beautiful, sweet moments with their son Max. But as much as they love him, they fear him. He's 9. What we're about to show you is upsetting and confronting, but his parents want us to see it after the NDIS drastically reduced Max's funding. They need help now.
Renee, are you scared of your son?
At times I am, yes. Yes.
What Max has done to your body is shocking.
It is. It is. I don't have a limb on me that isn't covered in scratches and bruises or bite marks.
The footage is confronting, but Max's parents want you to see it.
I've had my head slammed against the tiles, been pushed over couches, dragged up a concrete driveway.
Renee and David are desperate for help.
Does it ever cross your mind that it's so hard to ask, that Max will take this too far one day?
It's crossed my mind numerous times. Numerous times.
That's not your trampoline. Where's your trampoline?
Among Max's conditions is level 3 autism, the most severe type, which dramatically impacts the sufferer's life. The 9-year-old struggles to regulate his emotions, and his parents say that's when he lashes out.
Very violent, very violent. So these escalations can look like anything from pinching, punching, hitting, kicking, biting, hair pulling, dragging you against something.
He just gets into this rage where you just can't control it. You've just got to try and get away the best you can.
How long do these episodes last for?
Anywhere from 5 minutes up to 3 hours.
It's difficult to watch. Renee and Dave never wanted.
Now, I've never been in this situation. I can't comment on how hard it would be, but I can try and empathise and understand. He's 9 years old now. He's going to be a teenager in the next few years, and his strength's going to double. And what happens then? Now, like I said a few minutes ago, Albanese wants children off the NDIA. He's slashing funding. Why? Why? Because the media are beating this up to something it shouldn't be. They're not blaming the right people. I blame the politicians, the senior management of the NDIA board and the IAC and the media for this. These people need help. Can you imagine going through what they're going through all day, every day? It's just absolutely terrible. And my biggest fear for this family is that the funding is going to be reduced so much. Now, earlier this year in Perth, there was a husband and wife who had 2 sons that were autistic, and they were fearing that their funding was going to be slashed. So they ended everyone's lives. 2 young kids, 2 young boys, and both the parents are no longer alive. Now, the government wasn't going to do a coronial inquiry into that episode, and I can only assume it was because they were scared of their funding being cut, and they were fearing what was going to happen to their family once that happened. That's why they did what they did. But the government doesn't want any investigations in it because they don't want to look bad. That's my opinion. Can we start that again, please?
The family was managing with NDIS funding. Max's latest annual plan, though, was just dramatically slashed, reduced from around $98,000 to $27,000. His parents say that means less therapy, fewer support workers, and no in-home care during Max's most challenging moments.
With his funding cut, how does life look?
Very bleak.
Renee will keep fighting for her son.
As much as I love him, I do, he's my whole world. There are times that I am scared. I have been fearful that it's only going to take one blow, one slip, and I'm not going to get back up again. I feel like I'm in a constant state of heightened anxiety. Someone can walk past me and I'll flinch.
It's so hard because, I see a beautiful Max in front of me, and then I see those shocking videos.
Yeah.
It's hard to think that that's the same boy.
Yeah. And
what's he like?
Look, he's so much fun.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Are you getting dad?
He is the most sweetest, most beautiful, affectionate child.
Despite everything, there's a lot of love in this
boy.
home.
Max, what do we need to get?
Two eggs.
Good job.
He loves to cook. He loves to see animals. He loves to swim. And he's honestly just like a big little cuddly bear when he's not like this.
Renee and Dave believe with the right support,
Now, $98,000 in funding reduced to $27,000. That's a slash by 2/3. So out of every $3 they got in funding, they're getting $2 taken away. I have to believe it should be increased while he's 9 years old and growing up. Give him all the supports that he needs and try and work out ways to reduce any triggers that he may face in the future. Because God help anyone when he's 15, 16, 18 years old. He'll do some real damage then, not just to his family, but anyone out in the community. Invest the money now, make the savings later. Now, I'll put my own personal thing on this. I had severe osteoporosis in the thoracic spine. I'd broken 8 vertebrae, though, multiple fractures and collapses and slowly disintegrating. My pain was that bad. I started going to an exercise physiologist to strengthen my back muscles. For the first 2 years, I was just going through the motions, not lifting weights. Then I started slowly adding weights to it. Now, after 9 years, I've reduced my pain medication by about 95%. So that's a saving to the government in the long term. I'm out and about a lot more than I used to be. Getting into community activities and social activities. The benefits and the costs far outweigh of doing nothing and letting things get worse. But these idiots in Canberra can't see that. If they had a child or a sibling that had a severe disability, then they wouldn't be as mean and spiteful and uncaring as they are now. Now, I'm not saying that the NDIS is perfect. It's not. And it needs a lot of work. Again, that's not people with disabilities' fault. That's the government's fault. Consecutive governments since 2013. Coalition and the Liars Party. They chopped and changed and made changes here, made changes there, allowed this, didn't allow that, then reversed their decisions. But you can't blame people with disabilities or their families for that. That's the senior management of the NDIA and the government ministers. That's their fault. And they've got the media on the side throwing fuel onto the fire because it's quick views and reviews. It's beneficial for them. So in my opinion, the media and the governments have this parasitic relationship. The government knows they need the media to get their message out, and the media knows that they need the government to get the stories. So they feed each other all this crap. But in doing so, they're making life hard for people whose lives are already too hard. a 2/3 cut to that family's funding, 98,000 to 27,000. We're not just talking about supports for the family, we're talking about supports for that child, for Max, to get someone to help him with his behaviour, to identify the triggers, to try and develop ways that he can deal with issues. All that's gone out the window. Like I said, I've never lived in that situation, but I can empathise. And again, the government gets an absolute F for this. They failed. They failed this family. They're failing the whole entire amount of people on the NDIA. They failed. So is the coalition. Thank you for making our lives way harder than they already need to be. Anyway, I think we might leave that for today. If anybody has anything they would like me to look into or talk about or show, you can email me at blindadvocate007@gmail.com. And if you like the channel, please hit that subscribe button. It'll take you 60 seconds, not even that, to hit the subscribe button and go to the notifications and select all. That's the way, how you can help this channel stay. All right. Okay. Well, thanks everyone.